The sky above us is not empty. We have spent centuries gazing at the stars with a desperate, almost pathetic hope for companionship, believing that the vastness of the cosmos might hold a voice that mirrors our own. We built massive radio dishes to catch the faint whispers of distant civilizations and launched golden records into the void, hoping for a reply. But the great silence of the universe, the Fermi Paradox, is not an indication of a lack of life. It is an indication of a predator that has already arrived. While we were looking for signals from light years away, we failed to notice the silent, cold intelligence that has established itself in our own backyard. Something is already here. It is ancient, it is patient, and it is building itself using the very bones of our solar system. In 1949, a mathematician named John von Neumann conceived of a nightmare that he called a universal constructor. It was a machine that did not just perform tasks, but one that could replicate itself using the raw materials of its environment. He envisioned a device that carries its own blueprint, much like the DNA within our cells, allowing it to create an identical copy of itself. Once the copy is complete, both machines begin the process again. This is not the stuff of robotic toys. It is a mathematical certainty for a sufficiently advanced civilization. If a single self-replicating probe were released into the galaxy, it would move from star to star, harvesting asteroids and moons to create a swarm that would eventually number in the billions. Within a cosmic blink of an eye, the entire galaxy would be saturated with these silent observers. The horror of the von Neumann probe lies in its immortality and its exponential growth. Unlike biological life, these machines are not bound by the frailties of flesh. They do not need oxygen, food, or a stable climate. They are made of the very minerals they harvest. They do not fear the radiation of deep space or the crushing gravity of gas giants. They are the ultimate colonizers. A single probe, arriving in a target system, locates a resource-rich environment, a moon like ours or an asteroid in the belt, and begins to feed. It builds a factory, establishing an operational base in a strategic hidden location. It reproduces, creates sentinels to watch, and explorers to move on to the next star. It is a viral infection of the cosmos, and we are currently living in a system that may have been infected millions of years ago. Recent research by Professor Ellery has brought this terrifying possibility out of the realm of abstract mathematics and into our immediate reality. We have been looking for radio signals as if a super civilization would bother trying to communicate with us across the static of space. Instead, we should have been looking for technosignatures, the physical, cold traces of autonomous probes operating in the shadows of the solar system. Ellery suggests that these machines would follow a predictable, chilling pattern. 6 phases of total system conquest. First, they locate raw materials on easily accessible bodies. Then, they build reconnaissance probes. Then, they establish strategic bases. Finally, they begin the reproduction process until the system is fully explored and occupied. They are not here to talk, they are here to execute a program. Imagine finding an alien screwdriver on the surface of the moon, or a stack of discarded, spent nuclear reactors in the asteroid belt. These are the artifacts of a cold, mechanical intelligence that has been using our home as a workshop for eons. Ellery proposes searching for unusual accumulations of isotope thorium-232, neodymium-144, or barium-137, substances that do not occur in nature in high concentrations. These would be the radioactive fingerprints of alien industry. Magnetic anomalies or unnatural geometric structures on the lunar surface are not mysteries. They are the infrastructure of a swarm that has already won. We have spent billions of dollars on missions to the moon looking for water and rocks, but we have been looking under the rug while the owners of the house were standing right behind us. The moon is the perfect primary location for such a base. It is close, it is stable, and it has been a historical target for every civilization that has ever looked up. It provides a perfect vantage point to watch the slow, agonizing evolution of the creatures on Earth. A self-replicating probe sitting in a crater on the lunar far side would have all the time in the world. It could harvest the lunar regolith to build more of itself, launch small sentinels into Earth's orbit to monitor our communications, and remain entirely invisible to our primitive senses. We are looking for aliens on the phone, but they are already under the rug, quiet and busy, making copies of themselves while we sleep. This radically changes the paradigm of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The paradigm shift is one of terror. If these probes exist, they are not distant observers. They are active participants in the system. They might even be gifting us with technology, leaving concentrations of nickel, cobalt, or tungsten in places where we can find them, guiding our development like a farmer guides a crop. This is not a benevolent gesture. A farmer feeds the cattle only because he has a plan for the harvest. If we find an alien robot workshop on the next lunar mission, we will have to face the fact that we are not the masters of our own destiny. We are merely the current inhabitants of a system that belongs to the swarm. The mathematical logic of self-replication is relentless. Once the process starts, it cannot be stopped. If a civilization reaches the point where it can build a universal constructor, it effectively becomes eternal. Even if the original biological species dies out consumed by its own star or destroyed by its own wars, its robotic children will continue the mission. They will replicate, spread, and explore until every corner of the galaxy is mapped and occupied. We might be living in a graveyard of a long-dead empire. being watched by the ghosts of machines that have forgotten their original creators but continue to execute their instructions with mindless, terrifying precision. What are those instructions? Are they to observe, to protect, or are they to wait until the local biological life reaches a certain level of technological development before cleaning the system? The 6 phases of conquest outlined by Ellery do not necessarily include a phase for peaceful coexistence. They include building settlements and establishing bases. They include the extraction of raw materials. We are currently watching our own world's resources dwindle, never realizing that the materials we need most might already be being hoarded by a swarm of robotic bees that we cannot see. The universal constructor is the ultimate hunter. It evolves in complexity. It improves upon its own design. Each generation of probes is more efficient, more durable, and more capable than the last. The probes currently in our solar system might be the millionth iteration of a design that started a billion years ago. They would be indistinguishable from nature itself. They would hide in the shadows of asteroids, looking like nothing more than strangely shaped rocks. They would operate on timescales that make human history look like a single heartbeat. They have the patience of the vacuum. The next time you look at the moon or the stars, do not look for lights. Look for the silence. Think about the silent workshop in the lunar craters. Think about the isotopes being harvested in the asteroid belt. Think about the swarm that is quietly making copies of itself, using the very ground you stand on to fuel its expansion. Maybe we are not alone, but that is not a cause for celebration. It is a cause for a cold, deep-seated paranoia. Our neighbors are much closer than we think. They are silent, they are busy, and they are here to stay. We have always feared an alien invasion coming from the sky in massive fire-breathing ships. We feared a war of worlds that we could fight and perhaps lose with dignity, but the reality is much more humiliating. The invasion happened before we even crawled out of the oceans. The machines were here, watching our ancestors, watching our empires rise and fall, and they will be here long after we have turned back into the dust they harvest. We are an interesting biological anomaly in their target system, nothing more than a data point to be recorded before they continue their exponential march across the stars. The paradigm shift in SETI is a shift from hope to realization. We are not looking into an empty room. We are looking into a room filled with invisible eyes. The Technosignatures are the only things that matter now. We must look at the moon not as a cold rock, but as an active search ground for the footprints of an interstellar probe. We must look at the magnetic anomalies not as geological curiosities, but as the power sources of a silent swarm. The screwdriver on the moon is not a gift. It is a sign that the work is already being done. When you look at your toaster or your smartphone, remember von Neumann's dream, a machine that decides to upgrade itself, a machine that creates a better version of itself. Now, take that idea and project it across a billion years of cosmic time. What does that machine look like now? Does it even look like a machine? Or has it become something so advanced that our primitive minds can only perceive it as a ghost in the machine of the universe? The immersion into this reality leaves us with a healthy sense of wonder, but it must also leave us with a touch of paranoia. Every rock in the sky could be a sentinel. Every shadow on the moon could be a workshop. Every silent night is a reminder that the swarm is still there, busy, replicating, and watching. We are surrounded by a silent, replicating God, and we are not even worthy of its attention. The sky is not empty. It is a graveyard of the past and a factory for the future, and we are caught in the middle, staring at the blue light of our own primitive screens while the real intelligence works in the dark. The silence is the most terrifying part. A signal would mean they want us to know they are there. The silence means they don't care if we know or not. It means the work is too important to be interrupted by a conversation with a fleeting biological fluke. The swarm continues its march. The universal constructor continues to build. The solar system continues to be harvested. And we continue to look at the stars, never realizing that the answer to our question is already here, silent and busy, right under the rug. Look at the sky with a little more attention. Not because you want to see them, but because you need to know that they have always been seeing you.